Here we go, episode 159 of the Trash Talk Business Podcast. This is our opportunity every week to grow and build our junk removal dreams. As always, I'm your host, Andy Weins, owner of Camo Crew Responsible Junk Removal right here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. As you can see, no guest this week. However, we did do a webinar this morning talking about the Excite, Inform, Ask methodology of selling, brought to you by our good friends over at Jobber as a part of their series building out the community. So, without further ado, let's roll that tape and learn about Excite, Inform, Ask to sell more in those first 5 minutes.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today at Win the Customer in the First 5 Minutes, a Jobber Blueprint Live event with Andy Weins. My name is Molly, and I am on the community team here at Jobber. Andy, welcome and take it away.
Molly, thanks for having me on the stage. Today, we're going to get into it. Today is all about sales and how you can win each and every day. Because when sales sucks, it's your responsibility to get them back up and going. And as we say in the military today, we're going to embrace the suck. There are some things and contributing factors that negatively impact your business, whether it's tariffs, your competition, your ineptitude, or lack of confidence, lack of competence. And today, we're going to attack that. My mission, my why in this world is to change the world one word at a time. And I do that through the use of language, empowering language. So we become the victors of our story versus the victim of our circumstance. Today in the sales training is going to be very simple. How do we use words that win? How do we shift and change one language, one word in the sentence to go from that victim mindset to that victor? How do we use a three-step methodology that is systematic, thorough, and repeatable across all mediums so that you win more customers confidently? Those are the questions we're going to be going over, and that's what we're going to solve today. So here's our agenda. It's really simple. Everything I do is rooted in science. I wrote a book on neurolinguistics programming at a fifth grade reading level. I've done the work, I've done the research, so I can bring you the answers rooted in science on why and how this works. Second thing we're going to go over is the words that matter. How do we use winning language versus weak language? Shifting, again, one word at a time. The beautiful thing about this sales training, it costs you nothing. There's no fancy CRMs, no sales trainers to go out and get, no staff that you have to bring in to run a new process or new system. It's as simple as shifting one or two words in every sentence you use to empower yourself and others, because confidence will lead to sales. Third thing we're going to do, the techniques to win the sales. How do we reduce the amount of words we use to get closer to the target each and every time? Then we're going to have an action plan. How do we put this all together? How do we do A and B testing? How do we get out there in the world using data to make data-driven decisions? And then finally, Q&A. As she mentioned in the housekeeping notes, I'm going to be going over the slide deck, and then I'll jump into the Q&A. As I know me, when I go into the Q&A right away, we'll never get to the slides. I'll get so excited about your questions. I'm going to want to answer all of them right away. Chances are your question is going to be answered within the slide deck. Let's get into it. The science behind the sale. The science is coming down to three things: trust, social reciprocity. I practiced that word and still here we are. And then finally, the mirroring effect. Trust triggers. The way our brains work is when you meet somebody for the first time, you instantly make a judgment. It's what we do, right? It's that first impressions last a lifetime. The way people see you, how you present yourself when you walk in a room. Do you stand up confidently? Where are your hands? Are they in your pockets? Are you talking with your hands? Where's your eye contact? When you master these skills, people begin to trust you. They feel like you're part of their solution, not part of their problem. Second thing, social reciprocity. When you lead with confidence, you build the confidence of the person you're talking to. People are calling us every day. They're looking for solutions. I'm in junk removal. They want me to come out and remove the items in their house. They clearly have a problem. I'm an invited guest within their home. So whether you're doing landscaping, cleaning, gutter cleaning, whatever solution you provide your clients, people want you there. And so when you lead with the confidence that you can solve their problem, they will in turn be confident about the solution we're going to provide. And then finally, mirroring effect. This is taking those two elements, the trust and the social reciprocity, and start using it within language. When we start using language patterns that our customers are using, we further build that trust. As you can see this line, it goes from trust to reciprocity to the mirroring effect and goes back to trust. And this is how we develop relationships with our clients and our potential clients. This can be done in person or virtually. It can be done with a text message or email. In all ways, the language we use transfers across all mediums. This is ultimately what our goal is. This is the competence loop that I developed. We're going to start with building knowledge. You got into your line of business, and so you know what you're talking about. Dr. Jordan Peterson talks about having 3 times the depth of knowledge you anticipate the other person having. So what that means is there's a certain level of knowledge you think, okay, this is where they're at. This is the level they have. So for me with junk removal, well, they know they have items that need to be removed. They know there's other companies out there, and they probably have a pretty good idea of what the price might be based on some simple research. Turns out they'll probably also have additional pieces of knowledge or questions that I haven't even thought of that they might know. So that's why I need 3 times the knowledge of anticipation. When I walk in, I need to know exactly what they know. I need to know double what I think they know because chances are they're going to know something that I don't anticipate. And I have to know 3 times that depth of knowledge because they're going to have a question that I need to know the answer for. And so I might have to have 100 answers to questions. They're only going to ask 2. The goal though is I have to be able to answer. I get to answer those questions. I have 100 available. I need to know the answers to the 2 that I'm most likely going to um, get asked of me. Second thing, as you build your knowledge, you walk in to new situations, whether it's a networking event, a customer's home, an email or text message, and you're going to project your confidence in language. That's what we're really talking about today. You take the time to build your knowledge. You've built your business. You've already started your business. You've already done jobs for your customers. How do we take all that knowledge that you have and project it onto your customers so they know that you're the subject matter expert? Like it was mentioned at the top, I'm a military veteran. 21 years in the Army I've served now. And we talk about SMEs, SME, subject matter expert. And oftentimes people say, oh, I'm not the smartest one. I don't know this or I don't know that. Or the person on YouTube has more information. At the end of the day, the goal, in order to be a subject matter expert, is not to be the smartest person in the world, only the smartest person in the room. And when your customers call you, you are automatically the SME. When your employees come up to you, you're automatically the SME. Start acting like it. Project that confidence in the use of your language. Take the time to think through what you're going to say when you're faced with certain situations. When a stimulus comes across, how do you project confidence even when the situation has changed from what you anticipated? Like Mike Tyson said, a plan is great until you get punched in the face. What do you do when life punches you in the face? Do you fall apart and become that victim of circumstance? Or do you stand tall, stand proud, project confidence, being the victor of your story? Third thing, let's go win some customers. Convert more leads with authentic expertise. Be very clear and honest with your customers. What it is you do, what problem you solve, and how do you solve it that differentiates you from the competition? What I've learned is people do the research. With Google and now ChatGPT, all the information's out there. The key is transparency, especially when it comes to things like price and process. The more transparent you are with your customer, the more you build that trust. They'll know that when they ask you a question, you're giving them an authentic answer. And when you do that, you'll show that you really are the expert. Eventually, with your business, price, process, they go away. You've won that customer for life because they trust you. There's that old adage, people don't remember what you said or what you did. They remember the way you made them feel. When you project confidence, when you build trust, they'll feel valued. They'll feel confident. They'll feel like you are in their corner. and they're going to go along the journey with you, and you'll win customers for life. And finally, growing competence. The more customers you win, the more success you have, the more data you collect, the more competent you become, which then ultimately drives and builds your knowledge. Like I said from the top, at the end here, I'm going to teach you the methodology of how you roll this out to your entire team. When I'm talking about growing competence, even not getting the sale is still one more data point. What did you do wrong? What did you do right? What will you do different in the future? Collecting that data will show you a very clear path of who is your ideal customer and how do you solve their problem. A lot of people will say, well, I failed, I failed, I failed. They focus on the failures. Well, let's focus on the success. What was done right? And what do you do to do different? There's a three-step methodology for change: start, stop, continue. When you look at your professional life, when you look at your personal life, when you look at your family life, you can sit down, come up with a list of things to start, stop, and continue doing based on what's working. I guarantee you there's going to be some behaviors that you're currently doing that do not serve you. Those are the behaviors we're going to stop moving forward. And when we stop those behaviors, stop that lack of confidence, stop that weak language, we create space. We create a void for us to start using that confident language that we're talking about. This is what we talk about with trust. If we acknowledge someone else's vulnerability and become vulnerable in return, we build trust, understanding, and connection. Like I said from the top, I've done the research so that you're able to take the methodology and steps and apply them within your own business. Because the research has been done, we know it's rooted in science. We know that this isn't Andy on his high horse and what he thinks is the best way of selling. No, this is what has been scientifically proven to work within all relationships. Today, we're talking about the relationship between employer and employee, when you want to win over your employees and get them bought in on your processes. It's also obviously what we're doing sales wise when it comes to the service provider and the potential customer. When you build trust and you become a trustworthy person, it'll multiply. It's 10x thinking versus 2x thinking. 2x thinking is do more of the same thing, work harder, work longer, work later hours. 10x thinking is how do we adjust one thing within our lives so we can put forth the minimum effort and get the maximum return. Building trust and confidence builds that understanding and connection, and others will follow you. So here we go. Simple adjustments in our lives. Simple, weak words. I think, maybe, I'll try, sort of, to be honest. These are pre-qualifiers that people will say, and all you're telling your customer, that person you're talking to, you're uncertain. You're buying yourself time to generate the answer they're looking for. I talked about stop. When you stop this, you can merely wait 3 to 5 seconds to think through the answer. When you're very quick with an answer, it gets people sometimes on edge. When you wait and pause and think through what they said, you're actually building trust. It sounds kind of counterintuitive, like, oh, this guy doesn't know what they're talking about. Well, no, they're taking the time to make sure that the answer they give is better than saying, well, I think so, and that no, take the time, listen to the question. Maybe ask follow-up questions at this time. Hey, this is what I heard. Is that accurate? And then you give yourself that time to start processing the information versus putting those pre-qualifiers at the beginning of a sentence as you are generating an answer. You're being creative versus being more operational. Instead of finding the answer, you're looking for the answer. Second thing, apologetic language. Sorry to bother you. I'm new at this. I'm not sure if. Oh. In my book that I wrote, Words Fucking Matter, available on Amazon. Shameless plug, I know. I talk about shit words that do not serve. Sorry being one of the biggest ones out there. People pre-apologize when other people aren't even upset. Sorry to bother you. Let's remember, these people reached out to you. They called you. They have a problem, and you have a solution. Why are you apologizing? A simple hack: whenever you want to use the word sorry, use the word thank you instead. So, the classic example is sorry for being late. Instead, say thank you for your patience. When you say things like sorry, what you're doing is you're focusing on you. You're focusing on the past. You're focusing on scarcity versus thank you. When you say thank you, you make it about the other person. You focus on the present. You talk about abundance. A simple adjustment, eliminating the word sorry and instead saying thank you. Now you're building trust. That's the ultimate goal here when it comes to sales. And then finally, undermining qualifiers. This is extremely rampant in LinkedIn in messaging. Just check it in. Only takes a minute. This might not work, but hey, I know you're busy. Hey, we got these mutual connections, and I have a solution for a problem that I think you have. All of a sudden, people are generating all these undermining qualifiers. Say what you're going to say. You're going to say it anyways. The longer you wait to say what you have to say, you're giving people the opportunity to start creatively questioning, why is this person talking to me? What are they doing here? Reduce the time. Say what you're going to say. Think about any great military movie or any movie on leadership. What happens? When shit hits the fan, the leader makes decisions. They're very clear, they're very concise. Or I always think about the situation when in real world when somebody goes down, right, and there's a medical emergency. You'll get a bunch of people that panic and they'll say, "Oh, we got to do something about her. Somebody call 911." No, be very clear. You take care of the patient. You call 911. You go for help. You check their wallet for emergency contact. Very clear and concise versus these undermining qualifiers. When you use this experience, this real world experience preemptively in your sales process, you'll build trust and confidence, not only in yourself, also in your clients. Now, words that win. We eliminated those words that are weak, that shit language. Now let's replace them with words that win. Guaranteed, proven, value, expert, exclusive. Build these words within your cadence. Build these words within the way you approve people. Hey, I guarantee you we will X, Y, Z. Lay out the what. It's your job to figure out the how. Action phrases. Again, who's going to call 911? I will. Let me show you. Lay it out very simple. This is our plan. Have a plan and lay it out so it doesn't look like you're making it up on the spot. You have a very clear and concise documented plan that you've done over and over and over. What I recommend, it's one of my favorite opening lines, versus a suggestion. A suggestion is all these different things we can say. Oh, I have a lot of suggestions. Versus recommend. Hey, there's all these suggestions, there's all these things. This is the one I recommend, and this is why. And goes into, here's what works. This is what I've done in the past. Because you've heard all the things they've told you, and you've re-explained them back to them. What I recommend based on your situation, detail it X, Y, Z. And now they know that they are understood. They know that you've gone through this situation before and you've solved it for somebody else. Finally, connection builders. A connection, that bridge, gets us from where we're at to where we want to be. I understand. Re-explain to them what you understand, what you heard. Maybe you misheard something, and they'll be quick to correct. So now we clearly know how we are building this bridge. You can also instill confidence by saying, hey, many customers like you have faced a similar challenge, have dot, dot, dot. And now they feel they're included. They know that you've done this before. You've already built this bridge. And so therefore, they're excited and they're ready to come on this journey with you. Finally, a simple opening line like based on your needs. Again, you're making it about them and their needs. So these pre-qualifiers, when you have a contentious or apprehensive customer, starts to bridge that gap because now we're focusing on their needs, focusing on their end state, not the problem at hand, not you, the business person, and them, the consumer. We use this methodology in our company. We went from a 66% close rate to an 83% close rate within 6 months when we started putting in a 3-step methodology. The 3-step methodology that we use, tied in with the language we talk about, is the excite, inform, ask methodology. All too often, what I see with salespeople is they ask the question first. Hey, are you looking for the new thing? And then they go on to tell me all about the features and benefits of what they have. The challenge is people get defensive when you question without context. Excite, inform, ask. This is the three-step methodology. This is the root of what we're talking about today. Excite sounds like you got a big project. Inform, we've handled projects like this in the past. Ask, when do you want the project done? What's your biggest challenge? Who are the key players? You can ask any question you want at that point. So long as the question gets us closer to them saying yes, to you completing the work. Again, look at their project, look at their problem as your opportunity. When you're using this language, we're going to use the mirroring technique. The mirroring technique, which is talked about by Chris Voss in his book, Never Split the Difference, the best book on negotiating out there, talks about how do we master mirroring with our customers. Now, there's some salespeople that say mirror their body language. When they lean in, you lean in. When they put their hand over their face, you put your hand over their face. No, that's not what we're talking about today. What we're talking about today is mirroring the language they use, using the same language, repetitive in that language. And it goes right into the excite, inform, ask. So listen, especially for emotionally charged words. I'll talk about like with junk removal. They'll say, oh, I've had this huge, heavy treadmill in my basement for years. I want it gone. Okay. What I start with is excite. Oh, we take care of huge, heavy treadmills all the time. Now they know that I'm hearing exactly what they're saying. I am being empathetic towards their emotions by mirroring the words they use. I'm not upset about this treadmill. They are. I'm taking it all on with them. Also, mirroring when they have objections. When we get to that point of asking for the sale, asking for when we're going to start the project, go back to what they said before. Hey, you said this project was a big priority this year. We can solve your problem. What's your apprehension? Again, excite, inform, ask. Use that first step, excite. When you think of excite, think of emotions and empathy. How do we take their emotions, be empathetic towards them, and get them excited about the solution? Because when we inform them, we inform them about the end state and then ask them the question that bridges the gap. How do we get from where we're at to where we're going? Who do we need to talk to? When do you want to schedule it? What's your biggest hurdle? When we ask questions like that, we get them start to think logically about where we're going, not emotionally about where we've been. And this is what it looks like. Call, text, or email. It's very simple. What does the initial contact looks like? Lead with confidence. Speak clearly at a measured pace. So even here today, earlier when I was setting up this call with the ladies from Jobber, I had my seat low and I was sitting back like this and just kind of hanging out like I do at most Zoom calls. And what did I do? I raised up my desk. I raised up my posture. Now I can project confidently that I know my material. I know what we're talking about today. And you start to listen versus saying, oh, you know, so I wrote a book and in that book, right? I'm not projecting any confidence. You're not listening to me. And people can hear it on the voice, even over the phone, and even in text message and email. How do you come across? Do you use that pre-qualifying words that weaken, or do you get right into it and project confidence? Scheduling. This is one of the ones I get twitchy about. People will say, "Oh, when are you free?" or "What does next week look like?" No, be as specific as possible. What does Tuesday at 2 p.m. look like for you? Now, instead of them having this huge problem, oh, what day or time? No, you tell them exactly what you want and then have them come back specifically with what they want. You'll get closer to the answer faster. Being willing to fail. When you say something like, what does next week look like for you? You're giving all the control to them. When you say, what does Tuesday at 2 p.m. look like? Their answer might be like, well, no, that doesn't work, but 4 p.m. does, or 10 a.m. on Wednesday. All right, sounds good. So we failed so that we could succeed faster. Finally, follow up. Follow up is the key. Follow up consistently. Again, they called you. They have a problem. You have a solution. Be very clear in your follow up. Be consistent. When you're consistent in your follow up, you're projecting that confidence that you know the problem they have, you have the solution, and you're able to facilitate that solution. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. When you're consistent with your follow up, they'll know you'll be consistent with your work product. This is what it looks like in simple emails, simple text messages. You have a lot of emails that come this way. Hey, I hope this email finds you well. I just want to reach out. To be honest, I believe we could. all this language that's weakened. It's putting all this doubt in. You're almost convincing yourself you know what you're doing, even as you're typing. If you're interested, you might not be, but if you are, well, they are interested. You planted those seeds of doubt. Versus, hey, I came across the details of your project. We handled a project like this in the past. When are you available? Very clear and concise. They know exactly what I want. This is what excite, inform, ask looks like in a simple email or text message. When I talk to my team, everything is in 3 text messages or less. Keep it clear, keep it concise. And when you do that, you build confidence. You keep the conversation moving versus drawing it out for the sake of drawing it out because you're looking to convince yourself and others that you know what you're doing. No, show them you know what you're doing. Next, in-person selling. This is the key. In-person selling comes down to preparation. How do you set up the call? How do they know what you're going to talk about before you get there? So preparation. I always call people, and I used to do estimates. I've done thousands of estimates. I counted one time, it was like 4,000 estimates I had counted over the period of a 9-year period. As you go out in this world and you're doing estimates, you're meeting customers for the first time, you have a sales call in advance. Hey, I'll be there in 15 minutes. I never talk about being there early or late. When I have a 10 o'clock estimate, I'm calling saying, hey, I'll be there in 15 minutes. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I'll be there at this time. Maybe I'm 10 minutes before the previously agreed upon time or 10 minutes later. People love confidence versus you show up 10 minutes like, hey, sorry, I'm running late. You know how it is. No, hey, I'm 15 minutes out. I'll see you when I get there. You know, the opening line from Lord of the Rings, Gandalf's opening line talks about how a wizard is never early or late, always arrives precisely when they mean to be. I always tell people, I always show up when I arrive. When I get there, you're going to get the confident version of me. And that, again, is systematic, thorough, repeatable. Posture. I put Wonder Woman on here because that's the Wonder Woman pose. It's in a lot of sales training out there. Take up as much space as possible. Pin your shoulders back. Put your hands on your hip. What I talk about in the gym, proud chest. And when you do that, you already start to project confidence. You loosen up the muscles, you loosen up the joints, you let blood flow, and you feel a little better about yourself. When you show up as your authentic self, when you project confidence, people will receive that confidence. And finally, frame. This is a methodology I've learned recently I really love. Again, it still fits in that excite, inform, ask methodology. Talk about what we're going to talk about. Talk about how you want the conversation to end. Ask for the buy-in. It's as simple as this. Hey, I'm here to take a look at your junk removal project. By the end, I want to make sure we're on the same page so we both know the solution moving forward. Does that sound good to you? Is there anything I missed? What are your concerns before we start? Now we've shaped the conversation to the end. And I did this with everybody here. I said at the end, here are the questions we're going to answer. Here are the questions we're going to ask. And I've reinforced along the way what exactly we were doing so that at the end, you were bought in to say, okay, I now have this methodology to go out and sell confidently. And how do you apply this? This is our action plan. This comes right from EOS. EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, Gino Wickman and the team. This is exactly how they implement new solutions. We're going to talk about manage first. Create scripts for common customer scenarios. Come up with 3 to 5 scripts for the most common scenarios. The first time that they reach out to you, the follow-up quote process, the objection to price. Come up with scripts along the way. Come up with scripts and start to have them very clear and concise so we can measure them later on. Next, update, right? Come up with your scripts and then update them, tweak them along the way. Train your people. It's important you hand something to your people that's already systematic and thorough and repeatable. So it's not the owner-centric script. And then finally, measure the result. Whether it's email campaigns, text messages, opening lines on the phone call, start measuring what resonates with your customers and what doesn't. 2 years ago, we did a campaign. We sent out 2,000 emails. At the time, we had about 6,000 people on our email list. We sent out 2,000 emails. 2,000 of them said special pricing. 2,000 of them gave the pricing. 2,000 of them gave a 10% or 15% generic discount. The one that gave a generic discount got an 80% of our responses came from that one. Now, me, I would have been excited about special pricing. I was like, ooh, I want to know about special pricing. The average consumer here in Wisconsin wanted a clear and concise discount. And so because of that, we only talk about discounts now. No more special pricing, no more listing special pricing. We only talk about discount because we've gone out there, we've measured it, and now we manage, update, and train accordingly. When you gain control of the language your brain uses, you change the story you're telling yourself, transform your reality, and build the life you desire. This is the quote I use across all of the teachings that I do, whether it's a language of leadership, the sales training here. It's all about changing that one word that ultimately changes your reality. You can find me at andywines.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm a very simple person to find. I was drinking my Jobber Masters of Home Service podcast Yeti earlier today. This is what I do. I love going out there and sharing my vision of the world, changing the world one word at a time. I appreciate your time and attention. And now let's go to the Q&A. Let's see if I can find questions. What are winning follow-up strategies? Let's go to that one. Here we go. Jenny said, what are some winning follow-up strategies when competing against other estimates? Value, value, value. That is always a winning strategy. Reaffirm the value you provide. So the old adage I use is you can go to a steak place and you can go to McDonald's. They both do the same thing. Both of them satisfy your hunger. Everybody can tell the difference between a McDonald's and a steak place. How do you articulate the value you bring to your customers versus other companies and what they do? I follow up with value. The other thing is I follow up consistently. I won't tell them my customers are inconsistent. I won't tell them that my competition won't follow up with them. I follow up consistently. I tell them, hey, it's Tuesday. We always do Tuesday follow-ups. Tuesday is the slowest day on our phone, so we do all our follow-ups on Tuesday, our weekly follow-ups. We'll say, okay, I don't hear from you by next Tuesday, I'm going to call you again. And I'm going to call you again until you say yes or no. That way they know you're there, you're in it to win it. So that's my best strategy against the competition is show them who you are as a company, show them the value you bring in the way that you do your follow-up.
Okay. I feel like
There she
you
is.
may you can hear me now, right? Okay, good. I feel like you just answered this one, but it might be connected. I don't know if you want to add anything
No,
here.
that was
What are
it.
some
Yeah, that was it.
That was the
That
one.
was it. And also, let's go back. Excite, inform, ask. Make it clear and concise. Right? Hey, the old class is, hey, just following up here. No, hey, we got time next week. I get very clear. We're excited to take on your project. I have time Tuesday at 2 p.m. Do you want us to schedule you? All too often, they'll be like, actually, we hired somebody else. Sounds good, and then we move on. Or no, or they'll tell us what the real concern is. Chris Voss talks about this and Never Split the Difference. When you're very clear in your ask, they'll tell you what the real problem is. So then they might say, well, actually, I'm ready, but it's my husband. Okay. Well, then you can say, well, what are your husband's concerns? Or they'll say, oh, money's tight. The more concise you are, give them that very clear ability to escape gracefully, right? Called a golden bridge in negotiating. How do you
Mhm.
let them walk away gracefully? And you be very clear and concise. Because a generic email they can generically avoid, again, because you built trust, because you were vulnerable about exactly what you wanted. People all too often feel the need to actually answer your question.
Right. Thank you. Okay, this has a few upvotes here. Can you
Mhm.
give examples of phrases that sound confident but aren't actually helpful in building trust?
Um, ooh, yeah. My first job out of high school, I worked at Best Buy. I sold for Best Buy, and I had a customer call me out one time because I said, "All right, if I'm being honest, or to be honest," and he's like, "Are you not honest all the time?" And I was like, "Oh." So like 18, 19-year-old me um, realized that saying things like "to be honest" is terrible. And so some things like that. The other thing is how you treat. This is another thing. This goes more towards what I realized with hiring employees, and this is what comes back to how do you talk about your competition in front of your potential customers. Never talk shit about your competition because it
Mhm.
comes back to also when you're hiring. One of the best things you can do when you're interviewing a new employee is ask them about their old employer. When they say good things about their old employer, that's a sign that they have high character. And it's no different than dating too, right? Ask them about their ex, and when they all they do is blame their ex, they're not taking any
Mhm.
personal accountability or responsibility. It's a lack of growth mindset. And the same thing happens when you go out there and speak ill of your competition, right? So you can inform them without speaking ill. So, for example, in junk removal, we call it chucking the truck. Chucking a truck. Chucking a truck is your unlicensed, uninsured, ununiformed individual that will haul your material. Fine. Like that's chucking a truck. And 16, 17 years ago, I was say 16 years ago, I was chucking a truck. 2009, I was driving around the northwest side of Milwaukee, picking up appliances on the side of the road. When people were like, "Hey, can you take a check?" I'm like, you can write it in my own name, right? And also, if I scratch your floors or bang up your walls or hit your gutter, like, I don't have insurance, right? So I've been
Mhm.
chucking a truck, and so I tell that to people. Yeah, that was me. And now my guys show up, the trucks are wrapped, we're uniformed, we're insured, so that when something happens, we're able to take care of it. I haven't talked shit about chucking the truck. I merely explained the value my company brings, and also I'm empathetic towards chucking a truck. But the other thing I say is, okay, yeah, you have a bigger project. What might take them a week, I can get done in a day. No, I didn't say they're small. I didn't say they're
Mhm.
right. No, I just, yeah, you know what? They're probably a 2 or 3 man operation. This large project will take a week, right? We can get it done in a few days, right? Those, again, excite, inform, and then ask, is time a priority? If someone says, hey, money's only a priority, I don't care about the time, well, there might be a lower cost solution. Again, good, fast, cheap. I'm good and I'm fast. We're in our market right now, we're the highest priced junk removal company. And I'm proud of that because we're also the best. 1,700 reviews with a perfect 5-star rating. I can afford to charge the most because I give the most value to my
Mhm.
consumers.
Mhm. This feels like a related question from Tyler. How do you build value when you are starting out? You're a smaller company and you have
Hmm.
larger companies in your area. How do you get to where you are in that scenario?
Well, you um, face it while you make it. Do what you do best. Be you. So, for example, when I was chucking a truck, right? When I was a solopreneur, I'd say, "Hey, here's my cell phone. You will get a hold of the owner every time you call."
Mm,
Also, I
nice.
have a lot of availability in my calendar, right? A lot of saying I have no work in front of me and I have a lot of availability in my calendar. I'm telling you the same thing. One is
Yeah.
confident victor language. One is lack of, unconfident, inconfident, victim language, right? So use what you got. Hey, I'm local. You can also say I'm new. I had an employee recently, and she's like, "Well, I don't know this and I don't know that." I said, "Okay, you're naive. We can use that language. Okay, naive is good." I remember my first couple of years in business, I took on projects nobody else would do because I was naive, and so that was a beautiful thing. And so lean in on what you got, and also be honest. Hey, you're right. You can call the big guys, right? They're going to be more
Mhm.
expensive. They're not. You're going to get an eight. You're going to get an 800 number, right? You're going to be talking to somebody in somewhere else, and they're not going to treat you like a fellow citizen or taxpayer in this area like I am, right? I tell people all the time, hey, when you spend money with us, that money's staying in the community. Instead of it going to franchise fees, we donate it. We donate time. We were Memorial Day. We did a festival free. We pick up all their trash. We also did the parade. We do electronics collections events throughout the year. So whatever I can articulate, that's the key. And you only have to do it one time. This is the other thing. When you write a check to charity, that's giving you permission to talk about all the great things you do. You say, "Hey, I support the Knights of Columbus. I support the Boys and Girls Club." Right? One check
Mhm.
says you can say it in perpetuity. So when you talk about um, your smaller startup company, get in where you fit in. Never be ashamed of who you are.
Awesome. I thank you for that. It was nice to see you just say the facts as the company you are now, and then do that again from that other perspective. So
Yeah.
it even demonstrated what you just answered in the previous question. That's great. Thank
Yep.
you. Hopefully that's helpful, Tyler. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna jump to Chuck's question. Young assistant here. How do you excite clients through cold calling? What winning
Mhm.
language do you recommend when leaving a voicemail?
Uh, tip to actually my leave this if you could leave it up here because I want to hit the two
Oh,
parts.
yeah.
Yeah, pull the door back up so we can hit the two parts. So, um, I have a sales guy who, and I will admit this, he has exceeded me in sales, right? I
Mhm.
was the top sales guy for the longest time. He came into our company about a year and a half ago, and I'd say 6 months ago, I started listening to cadence, right? Especially in that second part of this question, the voicemail. Mike uses this three-step methodology every single time. He never talks about problems. He never talks about cost. He only talks about the solution to the project. He refers to everything as a project. So he'll say something like, "Hey, this is Mike. We got your quote. We're excited to take on the work. When are you available for a follow-up?" Right? Boom, boom, boom. And Mike gives that same exact performance every single time. There's that old adage, fake it until you make it. It's garbage. Face it while you make it. That's the key. The other thing we talk about in the military is false motivation is better than no motivation. So how do you turn it on for the cameras? Right? Even me. Listen to the first 30 minutes, now listen to these last 12 minutes. First 30 minutes, I'm like, okay, guys, this is how let's talk about the mirroring technique. Chris Voss talked about this in his book. I was slow. I sat up straight. I'm looking at my notes. Now I'm like, oh yeah, voicemails. All right, this is the way we do it. Have
Mhm.
that stage voice. I have a background in radio. Go up one octave more than your normal speaking voice. That's how you leave voicemails. Listen to radio. I know that's like a foreign concept for people, myself included, right? Commercials and radio. When you hear a commercial on TV or radio, what happens? It's louder in volume. The the cadence and pace is slightly different. It's pushing towards salesy because they're always excited about the solution they can solve, right? And then how do you get excited about client through cold calling? Pain points, pain points, pain point, pain points. So, for example, one of the businesses we cold call on often are apartment associations or apartment buildings and condos, and we go. This is another Chris Voss technique, right? Meet them where they're at. So, in a case like that, talk about their pain point, and then share in that pain point. Be empathetic. So, for example, say, those TVs and couches that always end up in the trash corral. They're like, oh yeah, every month, end of the month, right? And then it's a pain in the ass. And then you let them talk. You let them give you all the answers. And then you say, okay, for X number of dollars, or our solution is, and then they already told you what the problem is. So this is what it comes down to. You know what their problem is? Get them to that place. Get them, right? In a way, get them to that point. Be like, hey, remember last month when somebody left a couch in the trash corral, and then waste management called you, and then they penalized you because they couldn't get to the dumpster. Tell the story, right? Um, Cleaning companies, laundry, right? You go to my house right now. I am great about doing laundry. The folding and putting away part, ugh. Right now, today, if my phone rang and it was like, Sally's clothes folding service, and be like, hey, are you a guy that folds your laundry and just leaves it in the walk-in closet and you just pick through stuff and your shirt's always wrinkly? Like, I'm that guy. Yeah. like for 50 cents a shirt, I will come and put them on hangers. I'm like, I'll spend 50 cents a shirt, right? Get to their pain point. That's how you get them excited about cold calling, because they're not excited about you. Again, not what you say or what you do, how they make
Mhm.
you feel. They make you feel empowered. So when they're faced with that same problem, you are the solution.
Right. Thank you. There are many questions coming in, so I'm just going to remind everyone you can like the questions in the Q&A tab. That way we can make sure we get to the ones that the most majority of you really want answered, because I don't know that we'll get to all of them. So I'm going to stop sharing this one, and let's say, uh, what are examples of a good subject line or first message to re-engage a cold
Mm,
lead email via email or text?
short and sweet. That's a good example, right? I know for me, the ones I engage with the most are the ones where I don't know what the answer is in the text. When you say, "Hey, I'm just following up from your quote," I don't need to read the rest because I know exactly what you're doing. Sometimes as simple as like question,
Yes.
you put question in the tagline. Question. I'm like, okay. Right, again, that vulnerability. Okay, I had you in my house. We talked about this. Okay, what's your question? And I read, hey, we have availability. Da, 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 yes or no? And they're like, no. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Okay.
I chase the nose. Absolutely, that's another
Mhm.
Chris Voss technique. Chase the nose.
Mhm.
Um, when they say no, you collect new data. And they're like, all right, let's move on to the next client,
Yeah.
because that wasn't your client.
Yeah.
You didn't know it, and they didn't know it yet.
Yeah. That's such a great mindset shift. Okay. The votes are coming in. This one has 6. What's a good follow-up question to money is tight?
Okay, what does that mean to you? Right? Money is tight. That can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. We had a estimate we did a couple weeks ago. It's like $3,500 estimate, and they're like, our budget's $1,000. Sounds good. Not our customer. And then that was it. Right?
Okay.
So ask what money tight is. We've also this was like 2 weeks ago. Mike had a job. We were at 2292, and they're like, we want to be under 2200. And so Mike, my sales guy, was like, hey, I discounted at $92. I'm like, I don't even know why you're telling me that. Good, right? Like that. So again, what does that mean? What do you mean by money is tight? Money is tight is I would say it's a soft excuse for a no. Okay,
Mm,
what is money is tight? And the other thing is, when it comes to your pricing, for you and whoever's answering your phones, have them know exactly what they're authorized ahead of time, so they know exactly how to rework. Because sometimes when you're going back and forth, all of a sudden people will be like, well, why don't you give me your best price the first time? And then you can get in this not great thing. And so when someone says money is tight, okay, well, what can you afford? What does that mean to you? I have seen historically when people try to do payment plans or projects over time, it feels good at the beginning and then it gets really ugly over time. And
okay.
so ask them, what does that mean? What money is tight? Get to the right. The sooner you get someone to say no, the sooner or more effort you can go put into someone that's going to say yes.
Yeah. This answer, there's a couple themes that are certainly coming up here. The
Mhm.
specificity,
Mm.
so really get to like what they're talking about, and then chasing that no, finding out
Jason,
what they mean so you can move on, kind of thing. That's great.
another great no question
Mhm.
when doing quote follow-ups, is there anything I haven't told you that you need to know
Mm,
before making this decision? And they'll say no. Okay. And you say, okay, well, that's good, right? Got excite, inform, ask. Hey, that's good. We covered all the bases. Restate again. We can be there next week at this time to solution, right? Can we make that decision now? They say no. Okay. Why not?
right.
Right. So you can always ask a follow-up why. So there's a Japanese methodology of the why 5 times to get to root cause. That's great when you're really one why can normally get you to the answer you're looking for. Well, why can't we? Oh, well, I'm waiting on my husband. Oh, okay, so you know all the information. You're waiting on the husband or the wife. Okay, so when are you going to talk to them? When's a good time for me to follow up? Do you want me to talk to them directly? Do, 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 do. Get get to all these no's, and again, you're building trust because you're being very again. They called you. I can't express that enough. This is not cold calling, right? You're calling them, right? Once you've quoted them, we both have the information.
Mhm. Great. Okay, related to that, how do you train field staff, not just sales reps, to confidently handle sales moments on the job site? You're doing a little training here. How can they train their team members?
Incentivize the shit out of them to win. That's how we
Okay.
do it, right? Because we share in the cost savings. So, for example, again, junk removal. Brian, last week, he was doing a hot tub removal. The guy across the street wanted a single item pickup. Single item pickup pricing for us is 149. The guy's like, well, I'll pay the 149. And so with our guys, we give them 10% when they close on the spot. And we ended up giving Brian, I think it was like $25 or $30. He's like, all right, cool, right? Because we appreciate the cost savings, right?
Mm,
Getting there is half the battle. So incentivize them. So what we do is 5% on door hangers. So they get door hangers. They write their name on the back. We close the job. They split the 5% with whoever's there. 10% when they sell a job and do it right off the bat. Um, and then also our guys are running on dollars per hour, so they get bonuses and incentives. So this is a give get situation, right? When you lay it out very clear and concise, like, hey, here's the process, and it matters not when they're not motivated. It matters not when they're not incentivized. And so we use those instrumental motivations like carrot and stick. We
mhm,
focus on the carrot because intrinsically, yeah, they might want the company to succeed so they get hours. They want that bonus more than they want intrinsically the company to grow.
right.
Gary Vee, there was a couple of years ago, someone asked Gary Vee, like, hey, how do you get your employees to work as hard as you do? It's like, they never will. It's not their dream. It's your company, right? So the sooner you embrace the fact that the reason why people show up to work every week is they give you time, you give them money. Well, what can you control? You can control the money. Again, abundance mindset. The way I look at it, more jobs, they get more money. Let's go.
Got it. Okay, watching the clock, we have time for one or two more questions.
Go.
So
Yeah.
before we get to those, and there will be a way for you to ask Andy more questions after the session, which I'll get to in a moment. But first, I want to call out that you should see a survey pop up right away here. If you could take a few moments to
Mhm.
answer it, fill it out before you leave the event, provide your feedback, we'd really appreciate it because it helps us make these events better. So let's see here. Okay, this has quite a few upvotes. I use the local Facebook groups to advertise. My customers overwhelmingly support me on there in the comments with recommendations, but my ads do not seem very successful on Facebook. Not sure why. Any advice?
Stop doing them.
Okay.
Again, clear and concise. Here's what it comes down to. There's four basic arithmetic tools we have: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. The challenge I see with people, a lot of them are weak. They want to add and divide, and those are the weakest of the two. When something doesn't work, we subtract it. If you're spending $1,000 on Facebook ads, it's not working. Spend $0. Subtract it entirely. Again, that goes back to that start, stop, continue methodology of change. And when something's working, multiply it. I at one point had 10 franchises across the country. I had two markets where Yelp was awesome. Twin Cities and San Diego. Yelp was awesome. Milwaukee, Yelp does not work well. So market by market, it's going to change. Stop trying to convince the customers to work within your ads. Find where they are and multiply the hell out of them. So if you're working in the if you're doing great in the Facebook comments and not in the ads, okay, live in the Facebook comments. Some people they do great on Google ads and not on SEO, or vice versa, right? So Google is the thing. Well, those are two different products. Just like your ads on Facebook versus the community groups versus your organic posting. Those are three different methodologies in the same platform. Focus on the one or two that are working and deploy those dollars somewhere else.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, we're going to get to one more question. However, if we didn't get to your question, if I'm not going to get to your question next, check out our Ask an Expert session in our community forum, the home service community. Andy will be there answering any more questions you have. He will assess your sales pitches over the next few days. We will share a link in the chat so you can join us at the home service community and ask Andy more questions. So, final question here. As a smaller growing company, how can we effectively increase our rates without losing existing clients or damaging relationships?
Uh, Three methodologies here. Increase your prices minimum 6% every year. Typically, two price increases. You can throw that question back up too, so I can hit it a couple times.
Yeah.
Two price increases, 3% a year. Customers typically won't feel. That's one strategy. Second strategy is very simple. You can increase your prices 10% and lose 11% of your customers, and you'll still make more money because math. Which goes in my next book. I'm writing another book. Numbers fucking matter. I'll plug my books here because why not? That'll be coming out January next year. That talks about those methodologies. Third strategy is you talk about you have a loyalty program or somehow make your existing customers feel very loved, and you give them current pricing. You lock them in on current pricing. I'm a big fan of locking in. I learned that maybe like 15 years ago, 20 years ago from this handyman. He said, whatever price people started at, that's where they stay at. So we had some customers at $25 an hour. He had other customers at $100 an hour because they took a chance on him when there was no, when he was a nobody, for example. And what ends up happening is your customer acquisition cost, because you continually work for that customer, stays about the same versus losing that customer. Now you have to go acquire another customer. Your customer acquisition cost goes up, or you charge more and they stay with you and your customer acquisition cost goes down, but your relationship also might go down with it. So in one of our number one client last year, I bought out an existing junk removal company. We merged, and he had lower pricing than we did. And so we said, hey, we're going to keep you at the lower pricing till the end of the year. And then this year, when we increased prices, she got the same general discount that she had, right? So we still increased her price, and yet she has really good. She's our number one customer, and so she has special pricing. And also, there's efficiencies. When you work with the same customer, it's not just customer acquisition cost; it's also the efficiencies you build in, because they know exactly what information to give you. You don't have to quote the job. It's not like you're playing all these games like you do with other customers. You know you got the job, so act accordingly. And also, the other thing you can do, hey, we're going to do a price increase. Is that going to disrupt our relationship? Again, excite, inform, ask. Hey, we're growing, inform. So is the economy. So is inflation. So we're going to change prices. will that affect our relationship? Someone say like, no, I get it. Feel free. Someone else might say, yeah, you know what? We're tight. Don't give me a reason to shop around. And then you know exactly what you're working with. They'll
Yeah.
appreciate that vulnerability. Great book there is Vivid Vision. When you lay out the vision for your company, you lay it out. You laid out your leadership, you laid out to your employees, and then you laid out to your customers. Hey, this is where
Mhm.
we're going. We're growing, and in order for us to grow and serve you better in the future, we're going to increase our prices now so you can reap the benefits in the future. And they might be like, oh, that's awesome. We want to grow with you.
I love that idea of just being honest and asking them because we're all consumers and customers too. Like I'm sure we can all think of a moment when we almost want to tell the people we work with, raise your prices, you know what I mean? So you can't assume to know what people are thinking. That's such a great lesson. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to sneak one more in. Do you think you can do
Please.
it? Okay.
I can be
Here.
here later. I got time. I do.
Okay, how do you get
Mm,
this had the most votes, so how do you
yeah.
get corporate contracts? Every time I talk to a manager, they say it's a corporate decision.
Call corporate. I had an issue with waste management a year and a half ago. And so I went onto LinkedIn. I know his name. His name is Jim Fish. Every waste management email is first initial, last name at wm.com. I emailed Jim Fish, the CEO of Waste Management, my issue. I got a phone call the next day from the area vice president. He was not thrilled calling me to talk about his situation. Right. So instead, I could have gone on. I could have used So I have a podcast. I could use my form on the podcast. I could have posted on LinkedIn. I could have come here to Jobber. There's a lot of things I could have done that would have been more scarcity mindset. I want abundance. I'm like, oh, I know who this guy is. I sent him an exciting inform ask email. I'm pissed. Here's my problem. What can you do about it? And you know what? If it's a corporate decision, okay, make it again. There's two ways to attack a sale: top down, bottom up.
Mhm.
You're getting no's here. Try here. Not even
Thank you.
try. Do the
Yeah,
fucking thing. That's my tagline
there
in
you
life. Do the thing. Go after it.
there you go. Simple truths that cut to the point, Andy. Thank you so much. This was awesome. Again, if you didn't get your Q&A answered, join us in the home service community, our community forum. Andy will be there for the next few days assessing your sales pitches. Andy, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. Tap subscribe or follow to get the latest episode. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us a review and tell a friend to listen. To learn more, visit trashtalkbusinesspodcast.com. Bye now.